Well, what do you do if the thing you love doing isn't loved by other people as much as it's loved by you? Well, you've got two options, don't you? One, give up your hobby and move on with your life. Or two, organise a local festival to kickstart some interest. And that is exactly what my next guest has done. Anthony Schulz, President of the Accordion Society of Australia. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Sammy. How are you?
I am so well and so fascinated to hear about your love of this instrument, because I've played a few unpopular instruments in my time, but the accordion, I think, is unpopular not just for its niche existence, but it's really hard to play, isn't it?
Oh, you think that's why it's unpopular? Well, it is hard to play, and it's you sort of got three things going on at once, haven't you, Sammy? You've got the keyboard or buttons on one side, buttons on the other side, and then madly squeezing all of that to make sure it all sounds. So it's a very complex instrument.
When did you start playing, Anthony?
I started playing in 1975 when I was 6 years old.
And what led you into the arms of this beautiful, grotesque sort of Frankenstein instrument?
I haven't heard it described
with respect
like that before. and it sort of is that. I mean, it's interesting, just before I answer your question, because I have been playing for nearly 50 years, and I often find myself in this odd situation where, on the one hand, it's completely normal. I've been playing my entire life, so I do think of it as beautiful and yet normal instrument. And then sometimes I catch myself in my studio, in my practice, looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, yes, what a bizarre instrument the accordion is. But to answer your question, my father, who is from East Prussia, which was then Germany when he was born, decided that at the age of 6 years old I should take up the accordion, and of course for him it seemed completely normal, and I didn't think otherwise.
My primary memory and thought and feeling when I hear the piano accordion is of Holocaust survivor Leo Rosner, because he used to visit my dad's school in Mentone and speak every year about his experience, and as part of that he would joyously play this instrument, and he was really proficient. That's the thing that comes to me. Do you find other people had the same? It's an emotional instrument, because I feel like it's not so commonly seen that some people will associate it with a time and a place or a person.
I think you're absolutely spot on, and it's something that over the last few years I've really been reflecting on, is the accordion seems to transport people. And, generally, in fact, I'd have to say that always, for me, the response is positive, but it's nearly always the response is attached to, it reminds me of, and it might be my grandfather, or when I was in Paris, and not so long ago, a lady was at a concert of mine, and when asked what she was thinking about, she said, it takes me back to when I was a young woman in Beirut.
So interestingly, none of these memories are taking us back to Australia. Are we like the deficient one when it comes to the love of this instrument?
Well, I think that's an interesting question, and it's something that actually Arnold Zabel, the writer who you probably would know of, and I have talked about a little bit, because the accordion does have a history here in Melbourne, and because, of course, of our, population from overseas, and especially the Greeks and Italians and the Germans, and there were dance halls here in Melbourne that had bands that featured the accordion, but somehow, somewhere along the line, it seems to have dropped off the radar. And of course in Europe it hasn't dropped off the radar really at all, and even in the States it seems to have it seems to have remained more popular, but I don't know, Sammy, why it's less so here. I'm
chatting to Anthony Schulz, President of the Accordion Society of Australia, who's doing his bit to raise up this instrument in the form of a festival. What's happening, Anthony? Because it's a very short one. I will say 11 hours long as a festival. Is that as long as you think people can take this instrument?
Not at all, not at all. I think that was as long as I thought I could manage to organise a festival for our first festival. It's pretty action-packed. We've got workshops throughout the day. We've got 4 workshops. For example, a workshop on musette accordion, another workshop on digital accordion, which is becoming very popular these days.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Does that still have the physical act and the airbag?
Yes. Yes. Well, it sort of emulates that.
Okay.
I think, there's lots of reasons why people like them. First of all, they like a greater variety of sound. They also like them because generally they're lighter. So especially for older players, they find them convenient in that way. We have a workshop on accordion repairs, which is a dying art. Mm-hmm. And the wonderful George Bertrumless, who you may know from Zydeco Jump, is running a masterclass with a number of students that's open to the public as well.
All happening at the Church of All Nations in Carlton on September the 30th. Right. So listeners can jump online and search for Accordion Festival. I like to think it's the only one. You're not competing with another one on the same day, Anthony?
No, we may be competing with some other major events. I don't know what they are, but anyway.
On that note, it's in Carlton, and that's one of the teams that people are wanting me to go for.
Well, yes.
Anthony, look, in the time we have, it would be remiss of me in my duties as a shock jock not to say to you, play us a tune, Anthony. Will you play us out with something?
Absolutely. How long would you like me to play for?
Look,
2 or 3 hours?
Let's give it 30 seconds, and I'll fade it down when we need to go to the news. So I'll say an official farewell to you now, my friend, and all the best for the festival, and take it away.
Thanks, Sammy. Here's something very gentle just to bring you into the morning nice and smoothly.
You are listening to Anthony Schulz, President of the Accordion Society of Australia, whose phone line is doing that thing that sometimes when it hears music it tries to filter it out, but it gives it this almost a retro vibe right now. It feels like a vintage recording, but that is live accordion being played right now in Melbourne ahead of the Accordion Festival coming your way.